Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
It's Saturday, and it's Johnny Million. How are you, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing now?
I'm all right. Did you go for a run this morning? Did you
Heck no.
in the snow with the? Is it snowing there? Is it? It's rough, right?
It's like snow globing. You know, it's just like all floating around.
Oh,
That's right.
that's just
which
that's
means
just
it's kinda
holiday
too cold
snow.
for snow, which I hate.
Oh yes, right. That's the one where the end of your nose is screaming like this,
Yeah.
like I understand what cold is, but that's a biting kind of thing. It's like a little cold demon nipping at
Yeah,
your
I
nose.
ran yesterday and instantly regretted it. As soon as I stepped outside of the door for my 4-mile run, I was like, okay,
Yes.
it's 3 miles.
Hey, forget it. Yeah. We, obviously, I'm in Vegas right now. After I finish the show, I hop in my car, drive to LA to do the unpresidential debate with Frangela, Eliza Skinner, and myself, and then Chris Bono, my dear friend Chris Bono, our old friend Chris Bono, is moderating it because they couldn't find anyone who knew less about politics, and it's going to be great. I honestly think that's the choice point. I think honestly that's the choice point, and I think it's genius, so that we can all kind of explain it for people who aren't in the bubble, right? I think that's actually a great idea. We should pick, and by the way, God bless Jay Leno as he heals from his exploding classic car. Yeah. I wish
that burns on friggin' anybody. Oh my!
No, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay, but it's going to take some time. He's not. It wasn't life threatening. He wasn't in. He's not going to lose his eye or anything like that. They were talking about he had to have some minor skin grafts, which is a lot. It's a big deal, but he'll be fine. Bless his heart. But remember when he used to go around, and Kimmel does this too, it's kind of been a regular gag for a long time, where you basically ask man on the street people political questions and laugh at how shockingly ignorant they are. Right?
Oh, yes.
You've seen many of those. I think that's who should do the debates. I think the moderators of debates should be the winner of the stupidest person in the man on the street competition. They should go out and... You know what I mean? Now, you can't tell people or they'll try, but just offer it to them after. And then either person can't just speak to their base because they'll completely confuse the moderator with jargon. It's a theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got that idea, but I love it. That said, let me see if I can. I don't know why, Johnny, your moniker is not showing up on screen for some. Oh, there it is. I think I figured it out. I'll figure it out because
as long as Twitter lasts, I'm at
right.
on Twitter.
We've only got a little bit left now. Obviously,
I found you on Mastodon, by the way.
Oh, excellent. Yes, I am at Hal Sparks at mastodon.world. World.
Yeah, and I'm Johnny Million at Mastodon.world.
Excellent. It's a good server and not at all stuck up. And for those of you that don't understand how Mastodon and those kind of things work, real quick, unlike Twitter, which is its own gated community, or Facebook, which is its own like Elysium, it doesn't take up space on Earth, but it is its own locked environment. Mastodon operates on zip codes or area codes. You're still available to everybody else. You can call somebody from one area code to another area code. You can have them in your connections, in your contacts, and all that kind of stuff. They just house their
Jesus Christ
account. What did Hal Vickery do just now? I can't see it yet.
He doubled downing because his vertigo kept him in the hospital last week.
Oh dear.
And then he's flying, and so he won't be around. Thank you so much, Hal. Vertigo sounds like a living nightmare to me.
Yeah, it is not fun. My dad had it really bad after his hunting accident.
What was his hunting accident?
You don't know this story?
I don't think so. How old were we?
It wasn't too long ago. It was about 15 years ago. He was hunting in the snow, and they were going up a hill, and like the terrain was a little wonky, and he slipped and put his hand out to his side, and the snow was way deeper than he thought, and a twig went into his ear and punctured his eardrum, like something out of the end of Star Wars.
No.
Yep. And so he had to have
One in a
surgery
million
on
shot,
it.
Doc.
Yep, and he has a hearing aid on that ear now because of it.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, he's had one for a long time. And
I'm glad
it's
you waited
because
15 years to tell me.
yeah, well, I thought it might shock and upset you.
Yeah.
And normally I tell you all shocking and upsetting things immediately because I like to
Right
watch
out
your
of the
face.
gate.
But we weren't hanging
my
out
phone
as
is
much back
blowing
then.
up all the time.
Yeah, but we weren't hanging out as much back then. That was
True.
that was
Yeah,
that
15
that
years
was
ago, we
during
were not.
Nope, that was during the dark times. That was the time. That was BJM, before Johnny Million. That sounded weird when I did the
That
letters.
sounds weird and kind of nice.
And kind of naughty. Perfect for Christmas. All right, let's get on with the show. By the way, we've got a radio show happening.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. By the way, hi chat room. Hi everybody who's out there. Philip Ittner will indeed be joining us for the second hour. He's in Kiev. Lots going on there. Holy smokes! A gas refinery in St. Petersburg. By the way, one of the ones that would be responsible for venting gas out of the Nord Stream pipelines.
Where is your sound effect?
Oh, that's it. It was there. It is. So one of the places that would be responsible for that, where all the technically capable people have been scooped up and sent to war for no reason. That's one of the sites where if they wanted to get all the backed up gas out of there, they would have to have technicians there that could make sure they could do it without the place exploding. Yeah, those people are all gone, and it exploded. It's a giant pipeline. I'm not going to say gas again. Quit it, Johnny. That he did that himself. Radio Land.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Excuse yourself, then, Johnny.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, he doesn't have to. He's doing this from home. He just has to apologize to the cat and move on. Now, and we all thought she was.
I've grossed her out in the past. Or she's just been like, "Yeah, I know I'm an animal, but come on, dude."
Right? Yeah. I bury my poop that it's built into my genes.
Right.
Get a dog if you want that kind of nonsense. We'll have a lot to talk about in the second hour, no doubt. The big story breaking this morning, besides the boring blatherfest that Donald Trump unleashed on guests at Mar-a-Lago last night, where he was like clamoring that he will not partake. I will not partake in this witch hunt against me. I'm 6 years. It's been going on. It's unfair. Life is unfair. I was born on third base. That means I hit a triple in the womb. Therefore, this stuff is supposed to happen to poor people, not me. Turn those machines back on. We built this exchange. All right. Besides that, which we can cover, but God knows, I covered it yesterday on my live stream if people want to go watch.
I actually commented on that. I tried to listen to the rebroadcast of it. I was like, oh my God. I asked in the comments if you made it all the way through.
I did. I always do. Because I will not be accused of taking him out of context. He always takes stuff people always take things out of context. They take the one thing he says wrong, and then everything else is genius and pure and good and smart and too clever, and they don't want you to know how it's great ideas. So they just cut this little part out where he said, and then they air that over and over again, and it's like the whole thing was like that. And like, no, I watched the whole thing. The whole thing was like that.
After all.
Yeah, indeed. So the big story is that in the New York Times this morning, former anti-abortion leader alleges another Supreme Court breach. So it turns out that in 2014 on the Hobby Lobby decision, which is about birth control in insurance provided, because it was like one of the anti-ACA cases that they were putting forward. And the the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Hobby Lobby. That apparently that decision was leaked at dinner with a couple of right-wing, anti-choice activists who apparently always have like box seats for all of the religiously based arguments in the Alito and Scalia courts. Like they sit up there like the old Muppets and go, ah! And apparently they get, yes, and they get to, I guess, have dinner with Alito and others afterwards and go, oh, okay, how do we fix this? How do we, obviously because of the darn Constitution, you couldn't make it the way we wanted it. So how do we fix that for you next time? Well, if you want to send a case up to us, it'd have to look like this and it'll get by everybody. And that's basically how it worked. Like they're basically that you know how there was a spy, since we're doing a Star Wars reference, and we'll loop it back to that. You know how there was a spy that apparently leaked the plans to the Death Star that eventually were gotten by the Rogue One crew that got to Leia and all that kind of stuff. Apparently the person with the inside scoop, in this case the Death Star, is everyone's rights. It's a weird analogy, but work with me. The one who leaked the story about the vent port was indeed someone up in the Scalia and Alito camps. And in this particular case, and we'll talk about it on the other side, this is a former anti-choice activist who's had a return to real Jesus moment, leave Orange Jesus, come back to real Jesus. And this lovely family, ironically called the Wrights. We're going to come back after this break. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. We'll be back.
Thank you, Cat Cookie.
What happened with the cat? I don't know why, but
Cat Cookie gave us 5 big ones.
Oh my gosh, Hal Vickery, I just saw yours. This is for the week and for the next 2 weeks. If I missed it next week in the hospital, keeps improving. I'll be flying Thursday to Madeira and cruising back to New York. Well, you're going to be exhausted by the time you get back. Hey, I'm walking here. Be safe in your travels, Hal Vickery. We love and adore you. And not just because it's nice to know that other Hals are out there. Fighting the good fight. Yes, we're a rare breed. We really are. So, hold on. I want to got to find this little story about dinner. What?
I did that little whistle like you did, and my Mrs. Million was walking by and acted like I was whistling at her.
60 seconds, guys.
Which you kind of always are.
I kind of always am. She's a fun lady.
She is a fun lady. She's lovely. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Okay. We're gonna, yeah.
That's a lot of sentences.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who this person is talking about in this particular, but I'm fairly certain she called Antonin Scalia Nino.
Ooh, I don't like that.
10 seconds.
No. Thank you. We'll be
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So I guess it's no surprise that the story about like when the Dodd decision was leaked, there was a little bit of like, oh, how dare they? And this assumption that it had to be one of the liberal justices, it had to be somebody clerking from one of the liberal justices, because they were going to try and pressure the Alito, Thomas, Amy Coney Barrett cabal that they had there, to borrow their word, into changing their mind before June came around, which was never going to happen. So that was a flat out absurdity. And the idea that they would that somehow threats upon their life even would change this part of it, especially considering how these are what they believe is like a biblical mission in their life. Not that I think they're honest about it.
It's their end game.
Yes, and it's the story for their whole family. It will set them up with a certain swath of humans in this country forever. They will always be known. It's a great way to pad your kid's nest, feather your kid's nest and your grandkid's nest and your great-grandkid's nest. So apparently there was a couple, I want to say Don and Gloria Wright. The ironic aspect that their names are Wright when they seek to take others away is pretty hilarious. But this guy, Schenck, who they interviewed for this piece, used to be one of these activists. And he was the guy who basically hooked them up with Antonin Scalia and Justice Alito. And they became, dinner guest friends to the point where, and this is from the New York Times article, when the Hobby Lobby case was argued before the Supreme Court in March 2014. Hold on, let me put this up here. Seats in the courtroom were reserved for guests of Justices Scalia and Alito. We were invited to use seats from Nino and Sam, she had written to Mr. Schenck days earlier, using nicknames for the justices. Wow. This woman called Antonin Scalia Nino. That's a little cozy, I would say, for a SCOTUS. I at the very least, if you're going to write sketchy, hey, I've got the inside scoop emails about how close they are, you could go, we were invited you seats from Justices Alito and Scalia, and this is quite exciting. At least use their full names. I guess people were new to email in their minds. Okay. In the interview, Mrs. Wright said she used such seats all the time because Nino and my husband were very good friends. She was eager to hear the Hobby Lobby arguments she had because she had an interest in, quote, all cases related to biblical issues. Her ties were the result, in part, of years of effort by Mr. Schenck. There's a little lovely picture out of Don and Gail Wright from Centerville, Ohio. And they've got this Operation Save Our Nation thing that they were a part of. Our mission, to bring the Word of God to bear on the hearts and minds of those who make public policy in America. Now, that's a very distinct choice piece of language, to bear on them. Meaning we're going to put the fear of the godly, if not God, on these people. Now, I'm going to take a moment to center Johnny Million because...
Oh, did I move? No, it's because of the article.
No, it's because of the article. I moved you. It's not your fault. You've done nothing wrong. I don't want you... There you go. That's better. Don't worry. Go back to what you were doing because I don't want you to feel bad. Yes, you do. Anyways, the fascinating part to me is how casual this whole thing reads. This is the scariest part of it, is just how they were just shrugging off conversation. You and I, honestly, I really can't imagine having gone to law school with somebody who's now a Supreme Court judge or something like that. That seems absurd. But at the same time, even if I'd known them all during school, once they were on the Supreme Court, even a president I might call by their first name or a nickname because there's a certain element of on the level with a president, even still with the office. You respect the office, but you still have your friend. With the Supreme Court, it's a little different because any deference can be read as favoritism. Okay. This is Schenck, the story about Schenck. He had long been an ends justify the means anti-abortion provocateur. During the 92 Democratic Convention, he plotted a stunt to accost future President Bill Clinton with an aborted fetus in a container. He was repeatedly jailed for blocking access to abortion clinics. He helped pay Norma McGorvey, the Jane Roe of the 73 ruling establishing abortion rights, for speaking appearances, later opposing the decision. She later said she had been paid to lie. But no matter how much attention those tactics yielded, Roe v. Wade, one of the most consequential decisions in the past half century, stood in the way of efforts to end the right to an abortion. Historically, the court does not like to get too far out ahead of public opinion, and justices do not lightly overturn long-standing precedents. So in 2000, Mr. Schenck launched Operation Higher Court, an attempt to reach the justices directly. This, cool. Not at all. Yeah. And this is like, they go back into his story. But the story is in many ways about the rights, this couple, because, through this, okay, here we go. He encouraged his donors to become patrons of the court's historical society. 4 of them, including the Wrights, became trustees, giving at least an estimated $125,000, records show. That helped him draw close to the society's executive director, David Pride. By the way, this whole article reads like the Lawrence Fishburne storyline in Deep Cover. Like buying drugs to work your way up. Yeah, to work your way up to the big boss. Like it's crazy. It's like because it's so mercenary. You know what I mean? It's not like, wow, I found myself because we care about the same things. He set himself on a mission that was further down the road than the people he was trying to get close to manipulate them. That helped him draw close to the society's executive director, David Pride. In September 2011, Mr. Pride took Mr. Green of Hobby Lobby to the Chief Justice's annual Christmas party. What? At Mr. Schenck's request. In an email, Mr. Schenck described Mr. Green's parents, already Faith in Action donors, as potential big givers to the society. Family is worth about $3 billion. Mr. Pride responded, saying he would escort Mr. Green into the party. He added, by any appendage he would like. He added he would, I'm kidding. He should consult about what you might like me to promote on your behalf to Mr. Green. Do you have a particular project or the like that you'd like me to talk up? Or should I just extol your many virtues to him? A few months later, Hobby Lobby owners began discussing about joining efforts to overturn the Affordable Care Act's contraceptive mandate. Pride, now retired, says he was happy to help Schenck do some fundraising with the Greens. Ultimately, what happened and how this rolled out was that the Wrights ended up at a breakfast or a lunch with Alito, and then while they deny directly being the ones that carry this, all of a sudden, emails started blowing up between them and other people that the Hobby Lobby decision was going to come down on the side of Hobby Lobby against the ACA and against the contraceptive mandate. Which, again, considering Thomas has kind of picked up Scalia's scraps around as far as his connections in the justices with these particular groups, because he was always kind of in tow behind Scalia. It was a very strange relationship they had. He almost said nothing the entire time Scalia was alive, in terms of documented stuff. He basically he got all these connections once they were gone. And this may go a long way towards explaining, Ginny Thomas's descent into madness. We didn't hear much about her, so she might have always been crazy, but especially now, it makes sense that she's basically surrounded by these kind of sycophant religious right, win at all cost, anti-choice, anti-freedom and anti-gay rights groups. So, this is so weird. Don and I have been invited to a private party in Virginia to celebrate Nino's 80th, she wrote to him in January 2016 email referring to Justice Scalia. Lunch with CT on Monday, Sam on Wednesday, dinner at court on Monday, dinner with Maureen on Wednesday. These are both justices and people that work for them. She wrote in another email, Mr. Schenck understood CT and Sam to be Justices Thomas and Alito. She referred to them by their first names in other emails. Scalia's widow is named Maureen. Alito appeared to know Ms. Wright's views well enough to recommend she attend a lecture at the court by Kelly Shackelford, the president of the First Liberty Institute. This whole thing is how they've grown over time a lock on how this court will rule for a generation if somebody doesn't end up stepping down in the next couple of years, which, by the way, they very well may. We're not, some of these folks are getting a little long in the tooth. I think they're all looking to Ruth Bader Ginsburg as their symbol of hanging on. But some of them might want to enjoy a bit of the good life that even if their stuff gets overturned by stepping down and parading around free of what little limitations there seem to be on their behavior while in the court. That's a slim chance, but a possibility. That said, I would like to remind everyone of this entire thing, and I would recommend everybody read this article in the New York Times. And I tweeted it out if Twitter still exists. We have to check moment by moment. I tweeted it out. It's worth a read because it's as shocking as unshocking as it is. And I would like to remind everyone that this indeed is your inspiration every single time the presidency comes around, and the Senate for that matter. Anytime the control of the Senate or the ability to run the Senate even smoothly without interference from people comes around, this is the story I want people to think of. Not, what are the policies that are supposed to inspire me this time around? Because I got news for you. Most of the policies that are meant to inspire you are relatively short-term solutions to stuff because of how quickly society changes and how quickly technology is changing. But the long game stuff gets borne out in this area. And all of these problems, had we known in 2014, I think this would have affected the Clinton election, because it would have been abundantly clear how they were going for the court. But but going forward, remember this strategy isn't dying now. This isn't just because they've been found out in one New York Times article doesn't mean that these people who are, ballistic missiles on a mission to destroy the rights of women and the LGBT community and poor people and anybody on the margins that they could shove out of the way. I got to say, that's your inspiration. I got your inspiration right here. This is the Housebox Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll be back right after this. This is a ridiculous article. It is so brutally cozy, this entire relationship. Oops, that's my mornings thing. I have mornings up on that thing. I guess I'm just advertising. Do I have a ink? There we go. And ink. What? And some of these things get gigantic, and I don't know why. And
I'm still a little confused at how Mastodon works.
It's it works. I
signed up for one channel and then ask for permission to get on another.
Yeah. You have to take your stuff elsewhere. So it's like putting it on a server. You need to there's a blockchain exchange point. And by the way, there'll be a future point where they might get rid of your personal ID aspect of it. You won't have your social security number, your driver's license as part of the blockchain. Although the real IDs are going to be blockchain oriented in the future because it creates a permanent form of ID that other people. It takes multiple sources to eliminate, so people can't hack your identity, which is great. They're two things alike.
When you say blockchain, I think of amino acids.
You're right. Well, that's branch chain.
Oh,
you're thinking of. Yes, blockchain is a series of information bits in a row. And this might bring us to to the Bitcoin failure this week, although it's a boring story and it's hilarious and I don't care. And people who fell for crypto are idiots. I don't care if you found a way to ride it up, but if you didn't get out at some point going, this is all garbage, I'm getting out. You can only play the greater fool business plan for so long. There'll always be another sucker bigger than me. Right, that's what. A
friend of mine put himself on blast and said, "Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I was like, why not?" So I put $100 into Bitcoin, and then he showed this chart of what his $100 is worth now.
Right, and by the way, if it was an amount that's hilarious.
Yeah.
because if you'd put it in a long time ago,
seconds.
Thank you, it'd be worth a lot even still. But I would say get out.
Yeah,
because it's going away.
Thank you, Raymond.
Raymond, thank you very much. So let me go back to. Is it this one? Yeah, this is us. Okay. We're coming back in a second. Hi, chat room.
I got
by the
fuzzy.
way.
Is it my problem?
Might have doing that.
You know what? Sometimes I look great on YouTube, but fuzzy on the ninja thing.
You look fine to me. You look spectacular, okay. Even when you are fuzzy, but especially.
10 seconds.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Spock here today to comment on my wardrobe?
He shouldn't. You were nice enough to hide your pointy ears behind your hat.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Megaworldwide.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Joe Biden. What? Happy birthday. That's right, the president to you and many more. At least 10, maybe 15. How about 16? We'll figure it out. But at least definitely 6. Yeah, today is Joe Biden's birthday. He is 80 years old, oldest president ever.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
If you trust, calendars from the 1800s, I suppose, because there's a bunch of those dudes who went
running out of Fs.
What do you mean?
When he is when he's questioned by somebody on the far right during a press conference.
Yes, he has 0. He's got less than 0 Fs. For the doozies of the world.
Did you see I saw one clip where somebody was like, so what do you think about Trump, who's still got a pretty powerful political influence? And he said, oh, does he? With like this little sarcastic grin, like, really?
Yeah. Well, that's because, as much as politicians will go back and forth about, my polls and our polls, and we're trying to do this, and we got to stay in there, and we got to, that we need everybody to show up and stuff. They do see the real story. If you see them really worried, there's a real reason why they're worried. And if you see them relaxed when everybody else is panicking, there's a reason. And and it is amazing to me, and I think the greatest gift that the press could give Biden right now is to recognize that if the polls they were reading were so wrong about the election, about the red wave, and that the Republicans were going to seize control of both chambers by overwhelming majorities, and they were going to just, act as a dead stop against the entire agenda of the Biden, and those turned out to be so wrong again that maybe, just maybe, the same polls about Biden's popularity are just as wrong because they were done at the same time.
Who will pick up their phone,
right? The same time by the same people. If one part of the poll is massively wrong, then it stands to reason the rest is wrong. So, anyways, congratulations to the fam and a happy birthday. And. Okay, so the Alito announcement yesterday of Jack Smith, who I said was a great improvement over Jack something else that vaguely rhymes.
And Jack Smith does sound almost vile.
Yeah. You're in charge of 2 things right now, Jack and Smith left town. There's been a lot of like, oh, come on, why, and died. All right. I got news for you. The one thing you know about Trump is that while he can't afford lawyers of his own, the RNC to cover their backside and others around them will throw some decent lawyers at him if they think he's going seriously down. And those people will go, this is being run by an appointee of his political rival because he is running for office. So, to stay away from that, the appointment of a special counsel in this situation by the way, not an independent counsel, I would like to say for the record. Like, Merrick Garland still has a say in this. This is not one of those things where, they're creating some sort of their own version of the Durham report. This is, this is regular guidance by the DOJ because it is coordinating a lot of investigations, many of which are too serious to just go, you handle it. It's about that guy. It's not about that guy. It's about national security, and it's about graft and the attempt to overthrow an election through violent means. Those things aren't things you just Mueller report to some degree. Mueller, even the Mueller investigation was less about the presidency of Donald Trump and more about the campaign of Donald Trump. Could you or could you not prove that they were in cahoots with Russians or that Russians were manipulating them to have an impact on the American elections? By the way, nowhere in the report does it say no collusion. That doesn't happen. Like, it just never happens. But he says it again and again and again, and so much so that his Kool-Aid followers will go, no collusion, like a tick. Well, the Mueller report, again, being about the campaign and the campaigner versus the president and his connections after the fact, because once he's in the office, he gets a backdoor to Russia that he can use, and he can keep people off of it because he can say it's for need to know basis and stuff. So it's really hard to prove past that point. Now that he's out and he's making deals with the Saudis leading into his next election cycle, I got news for you. The man has basically rung the dinner bell that he'll take all comers. Last time he did the Russia, if you're listening thing, at this point, he's like, anybody who hates America, anybody who likes my America in decline speech, the vault is open. Start chucking bucks in. He's just for it now. And there is an element of he'll try to move all his soft, small donors to the campaign where he'll use that for basically a PR campaign to kind of help him fight back against the legal cases he's in. And then the super PAC will still gather money from dark money mega donors that can just throw money there that will pay his bills. And this deal with the Saudis helps plug some of his financial holes during this time. Now, there's a lot of reasons why it can and more than likely will fall apart. And that it's not as big as they tout it as being, because it's essentially him just slapping his name on a project. He's not a part of the actual ownership of the buildings or the project itself. It's just a labeling exercise like everything else they do in the Trump organization these days. And it would not be surprising if Trump org Dubai suddenly shows up and becomes the de facto headquarters of the Trump organization. Now, will that bite him going into the presidency? Absolutely. Will he care? No. Because he doesn't want to win, people. This is not about it. Like I've said many times, the guy is going to drop out more than likely February, March, by the latest the spring, for a myriad of other
go all the way third party it and mess everything
up. Nope. There's no way he third parties it. It's too expensive. And he's not going to take over the forward party or some garbage like that. It's just not happening. So it'll be health reasons. It'll be they're after me and I have to take time they're attacking your favorite president. And now they're threatening to throw me in jail. So I have to fight this and I can't do both things at once. And by the way, it will correspond with essentially every aspect of his legal case falling apart and his donors drifting and his support falling off. It took about 35 minutes for Republicans that were like ride or die Trump supporters to go, enough is enough. We're done. The editorials started being written before the speech.
Yeah,
because they knew what he was going to say, and they only greenlit him because anything could have happened. He could have come up there and said, I can't run because of this, or I'm the exploratory committee, which is basically what he's doing. I would argue that's what this is. And he'll probably they'll argue with the...
and Ivanka's all retired from politics.
Oh, yeah, she's out. Because they made their money and they made their connections. They're gone.
And she doesn't want to risk that.
Right. And again, she's trying to salvage the Trump name after Pop passes. Use the name Trump as a glitz and glamour name like Kardashian, but shorter and more to the point. And if it's Ivanka Trump and she's this glamorous sort of princess after the rotten old king goes away, that's not the first time that's happened on Earth, kids. That's not the first time that as a business model has been put forward. And so don't be surprised if that's the salvage act. Don and Eric are done. They're going to be attached to the failing properties and be selling them off to people and just, big game hunting and pretending to be rich and spending what's left of the fortune before they die. Ivanka and Jared, however, are, joining these, they've got his family's wealth, however, sketchy, and they've got, her name and the money they made while they were in the White House. They don't need it anymore. So this is going to be fascinating to see it play out. But the speech on Tuesday was bad. It was flubby and fumfering, and it was ridiculous, and he even brought up his whole, execute drug dealers nonsense, and that every drug dealer, which would include, every weed dealer in the country, has 500 dead people in their wake. It's just absurd. It's it's such a childish, 80s cop show view of reality. But even beyond that, his second follow-up last night, where he was raging against the special counsel, was he tried to go back over a couple of things he said that he screwed up. He said that we'd had peace in the Middle East for 4 decades. For decades and decades and decades is what he said, because of him. Which is absurd and silly, and he was lambasted for it, and we all laughed heartily. He tried to pick that up, basically do, some pickup shoots for them to sausage together the first speech and the second one, which won't match because it didn't have the same amount of flags and a different backdrop. But will his followers care? No, because they'll add echo and piano music, and they'll slap the thing together, and they'll be like, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life." He's done. He's done. They know it. The question is, can the Republicans shed him soon enough to have a shot going into 2024? My bet, no. Nope. He's gonna shiv every candidate they have, and his own followers are gonna turn on them, splinter the party, and result in a marathon win for Democrats in 2024. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT820.com, and of course, live streaming at infotainmentwars.com. Come on, subscribe. We're getting there. We're 43,500 subscribers now. We're making some headway. It's amazing. I know. We'll be back.
It's practically 52,000.
It's in Trump land. It's 85. Yeah.
Yes.
Just double it. Now, hi, Restream chat. Hi, everybody. I thought Donald J. Trump's speech was electrifying. No, they had to shock people in their seats to keep them awake. That's why I told them to sit down, because there were electrodes in the seat that would. Oh God!
Is there truth to the fact that they barred people from leaving?
Yes, they did.
That's rough.
Yeah. Oh, 43.6. We hit 43 and over 43 and a half. We're going to hit 44. I'm telling you, it's this whole having guests on the morning show thing.
Okay. Brad Enervold is doing his copy paste thing. Now that Trump has announced his run, doesn't he have to stop using the money he was sent?
Yes.
Okay, now stop copy pasting, Brad.
Here's the thing. He has to stop using the super PAC money for his own needs. They can't coordinate anymore. That does not mean that the super PAC can't pay Eric as a consultant or buy event space use. By the way, look for a lot of event space use by right-wing organizations coming up at Mar-a-Lago. Like basically the money he was making from the Secret Service, they're going to make up for it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're going to try and pick up that slack for him. And then again, this business deal with the Saudis is supposed to patch the other hole. So that's why he thinks he can skate through this. I got news for him. He can't. Because,
I got news for you.
Because they've got a huge debt due this year. And they might be able to punt it till next year. I'm sure they'll try. I don't know how. Probably we'll watch a Saudi bank or that San Diego bank, the same guy who bankrolls RAV or RSBN or whatever the hell. Yeah.
Seriously, you can roll debt for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, especially at that level, because nobody wants to be there when the music stops and there's no chairs left. So banks will bump, 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 bump. You got to have, at a certain point, one of the problems that Americans have is that they don't have enough massive debt.
We're coming back
They
in
have
20.
normal debt.
Thank you.
Thanks. Literally, you have debt the bank can swallow. You're done. They'll just jettison it. We'll write it off. It's when your debt.
A funny chat. The walls are closing in Magaga.
Magaga. Magoo.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Standard Error. That made me giggle.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Now, I have to say that the rigmarole around Twitter, Trump kind of grabbing the mic and Kanye style at that event last night and going, I'm going to let you finish, but I just want to say that Donald Trump's presidency was the greatest presidency in the world, in the Donald Trump of presidencies. That everything is a reboot right now. Everything. Like last night, he line for line said the thing about people coming across the border, they're murderers, they're rapists, they're bringing crime. And you know what he did? You know what the only difference was? You know what the only part of the reboot was? Because sometimes in a reboot they cut things off, they recast things.
Sure.
He recast some people. He recast the good people. He dropped that part. He dropped the good. He thinks that the lesson from 2016 was, I shouldn't have said that, and some of them I'm sure are good people.
Yeah.
That's no longer true. Also, he has Trump math is no longer working, where you just double whatever the bad number is and cut in half whatever the good number is. He's now doubling the doubled number. And the problem with that is that the lie was already ridiculous, but people who supported him in the MAGA world will, if you tell people it's like 4 million people coming across the border because there were reported 1.36 million crossings. By the way, only 41% of them were first timers. The majority are people trying again and again, which means not only are they coming across a second time, they're coming across a third, a fourth time, which means the number of actual crossings shrinks even further, because it's not just that one person counting as 50%. They now count as a 25% increase over the original crossings, and then a 15%, and then a 5%. The more these people try and fail, the higher the number of crossings gets. It's the people that get in that is going down. And Trump's real problem is and he knows this because Mar-a-Lago hires undocumented workers. He's friends with all these Texas businessmen and these New Mexico farmers and these Idaho farmers who hire undocumented workers so that they can pay them under the table, depress their wages, and undercut the wages of locals who would work on the farm. He knows there aren't that many people coming across, because if that was true, there wouldn't be a shortage of employees everywhere he goes. because everywhere he goes, it are sycophant-run, Republican-led businesses created by friends, because he doesn't go anywhere anybody might push back on what he says. So he's surrounded by people who are going, you can't get good help right now. Why? Border wall, right? They're like blaming the CPB. Jane says he also hired undocumented workers to build Trump Tower in New York City. Yeah, and he's mobbed up through the wazoo, and Rudy Giuliani and blah, blah, blah. But the real, it's obvious. It's one of the reasons why he can't build anything anymore, because his own party, the people he ran for, raised the scrutiny so high on undocumented workers, and were so against a visa program that would let, short-term migrant workers come into the country because they'll stay and they're all brown and stuff, that they're so against it, he couldn't sneak the workers in to make his projects profitable.
Oops.
Yeah. They killed their own business model. It's hilarious. So, by the way, Philip Ittner is going to be joining us at the break, but I do want to address a couple of things. I don't know if you know this, Johnny Million.
I may not.
But CBS is leaving Twitter. Yeah.
Wow.
They've decided that since they can't trust, and by the way, you want to know how fast it is big. It's also how slow the decision-making process is at CBS, because I guarantee this decision was made during the blue checkmark fiasco week before last, or last week, whenever it was, where you could buy for $8, you could buy your checkmark, and so everybody was buying fake blue checkmarks, and verification didn't mean anything, and so you could buy, Lockheed Martin lost money, a multitude of government officials were spoofed in there as well. So they were like, okay, we got to get out of here before this. CBS, the broadcasting service, by the way, some people were asking. I think they made that decision the day of, or the night that happened. Like, okay, if this is the way it is there, we can't afford this because somebody's going to pose as CBS News and it's going to be terrible. We got to get out. But it takes at that organization, it takes that long to work that way through the decision-making thing to where they finally announced it after that policy had been rescinded. But again, it's not a dumb move on behalf of, luckily, Johnny, you and I are fine because we're not serious organizations.
Not serious.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like you and I could both weather someone pretending to be us pretty well.
Yeah, for a few minutes.
Yep. Or at least a couple of days before we had to go, all right. But CBS News and other news organizations are not at all like that.
Yeah.
So
they can't handle that.
No.
Because if CBS comes out and says something, it's news.
Yeah, CBS says the rigged and stolen election. Donald Trump vindicated, and posts a fake picture of the Hunter Biden fake laptop. Fairly hilarious. So watch for more of that to happen, by the way. Will it be Mastodon? Will people just go back to Facebook, where I'm streaming right now, by the way, at the Hal Sparks page, the official Hal Sparks page on there. It's just at the Hal Sparks page on there, because you had to pick a name and stick to it a long time ago, which is fine. And then, people have moved over to Instagram, which is not built for quick response and broader conversations because it pockets the conversation under a picture. And again, the business model of Twitter is not rocket science. It's status updates. That's all it is. It's when Facebook launched status updates, where you could do these little short messages that would show up in people's feeds. Somebody, Jack Dorsey in particular, created a version of that. That's all it was. How about just that without all the other Facebook stuff? It was Jack Dorsey ripped off Facebook status updates. That's it. That's the entire, and I got news for you. That ain't hard to do. So somebody's going to come along with one that just kind of catches, and off you go. Yeah. That's where everybody will go. And whether it's tribal, which I don't think so, because it sounds like the exact opposite name that people are trying to go for. That's the problem right now, is tribalism, especially if you're trying to have a broader conversation. You know what I mean? I really do. Tribal, mistake, bad name, something more fun. Twitter worked because it was goofy, and it was just it was like calling something blurb. And by the way, I would totally be on a site called Blurb. There probably is one, and it's probably awful. I should take that back. Everything's on the internet, and a lot of it's just terrible. So I never say you'll be on an internet site and just make up a name because somebody already has and attributed awfulness to it. We got to take a break because we're right up against the bottom of that. If you're on Twitter, you can still follow me at HalSparks and at Johnny Million. If you're not, YouTube, infotainmentwars.com. Go to the YouTube channel or to twitch.tv/HalSparks. There's a great group there. And if you're a Patreon supporter or a regular on the stream, you can join the Discord, which is its own little subgroup that, a little group has always been and always will until the end. So we'll be back right after these words from the news. I'm the news. Why would they? What the? Mm-hmm. Excellent. So hopefully, our Philip usually joins in right at the tail end, but hopefully he's okay. He might be running for groceries or out of power. Oh wait, okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Why does the ninja thing say 4 connections? Or is it just 2?
It's just 2 for you. Might be stereo audio. Maybe. And then me, the director. Oh, and up at the top, you mean? Uh-huh. There's two sound, 2 views, 3 including the director, and then the 5 thing is the linkages. So you're watching it on your end, and I'm watching it on my end, and they're watching it on their end, which is pretty sure. Okay.
I got all excited because I thought it meant that Phil had joined.
Right. Well, here, you hang on for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second. I think I'll be all right. Yeah, there he is. He's coming live. Coming live is Philip Ittner, and I think he's going to be here in a second. Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys.
Hey, there we go. Yay. All right, which one is
Hey.
this?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Yep, you're all good. Okay, this one is...
Huzzah.
This one.
Huzzah.
Yeah. Johnny is Johnny, and this is guess one. Hold on 1 second.
Johnny is Johnny.
Johnny is Johnny, and why are you on
People
both
are asking
things?
where Chip is. Is he locked out?
Yes. Hold on, I've got to grab your link, and then I got to put him in here, and then I'll do this. Or no, sorry. There it is. I'm bringing him in.
Bring him in.
All right. And then, there we go. Paste. Okay. Let's go. Toy. There we go. Okay, there we go. Good stuff. And then, let's see. 1280 by 720. Love filling out frame sizes on the fly like a boss. There we go. Close. There we go. Move this over here. Then I've got to make sure that I change the. I have to change the. There it is. There you go. There we go.
What do you have to change, Hal?
I have to change the titles because Blue Gal and Mr. Electrico were on with me yesterday from Crooks and Liars, being all lovely and smart and cool. And I have their names still up on the screen. And I, as you do.
That's easy to do.
Let's see. Johnny, there you are. And Phil, there you are. And then I'll turn these off. Yeah, at some point, I've got to come up with a better titling system. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and we're going to... There he is, sort of. There's part of it's his shoulder, but it's still him. There he is. Yay. Hooray! Okay,
Hooray!
And you can hear us. Yeah, oh, he's doubling up. Look at that.
Yep.
This one, why am I hearing 3 of him?
Oh, did you hear me twice?
Would you like more time?
Yeah. No, we're good. I'll figure it out.
How about now?
No, it's not you.
How about now?
It's not you. It ain't you.
Okay.
I have to do this in here. 1 second. We'll just deal with it for a split second. Let's see.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out at me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for
Check for me, Phil.
You're troweling out.
Check.
There you go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep. Hey, look at that. That's a full-on check.
Hey.
That is the lovely dulcet tones of Philip Bittner checking from downtown Kiev in with Johnny Million, of course, joining us. This is the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. And so, Philip, give us the current state of where you are right now as a human being, because the chat always worries, and I always worry, because we have all become your mother.
Well, we're okay. We're having power outages.
Mm-hmm.
We have these power outages all throughout the kind of center, all throughout Kiev.
Right.
But they kind of are spotty depending on what substation you're connected to.
Okay.
So right now I could have all my lights on right now, but what I'm doing is running my circle ring light off of a power bank, as well as the phone that I'm connected to you on, because I don't want to put any extra strain on the substation.
On the grid.
I could have my lights on. I could, yeah, exactly. So, but we're all trying to use as little electricity as possible because we don't want to put a strain on things. Although the electricians, the civil engineers are doing an excellent job. I mean, a really top-notch, unsung heroes of this conflict. At the end, when the story of this war is told, they will be the ones that don't get the credit that they really deserve, because it's not as exciting as the frontline stuff, but they are out there working nonstop. They have provisions. They have anticipated things that might blow because of the another section might be exerted too hard, and so that will then blow another substation, and that'll go without power. So they're having to be very maneuverable and able to adapt at a moment's notice, and they are preparing for it. Now, also keeping in mind that Ukraine's entire power grid is set up for this. It's set up because of the heavy winter. It's actually kind of a common thing to happen here, where something will pop, and others. But the problem is, because it's so widespread, that they're now having to. It's like if all the cracks in the dam broke at once.
Sure.
You can stop one in a normal year. You can stop a crack and deal with that down the road while the rest of the dam holds. But because the entire dam has got just so many cracks in it, that they're running around trying to just stick so many different plugs and different cracks that they're overwhelmed, and that's what's happening.
I'm not saying a word.
I know. There's tons of double entendres there.
Yes, there is. I'm in double entendre hell right now. But I'm just saying, if we could do something if we could plug Johnny Million's damn crack sometimes, his cat could get some sleep. All right, so thank you. Yes. So never.
Exactly. But we're look. It's the snows have started. Winter is upon us. Kiev is beautiful, blanketed in a lovely white blanket of snow, and it's nice and pretty, but it's cold, and this is gonna be difficult. This is going to be very, very difficult. But there is absolutely no lack of endurance for the people here. I mean, I was yesterday. I was in a store, and the lights went out, and we were all all lined up. Everybody had their goods. They were ready to check out, and the lights went boom out. And one woman kind of got angry about it. She was frustrated. She was like, "There are so many people that are doing generators around the city, so that because we all know this is going to happen. Why doesn't this store have a generator that's ready to kick in?"
Right.
And everybody else in the line, not meanly, nobody was like, get out of here, you. It was more like, everybody was like, look, this is, look, we're all dealing with this. So they didn't have the money for a generator. Maybe they didn't have the generator hooked up correctly. Maybe the generator's at another branch of the store. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Let's just all try and get through this. And she grumbled a bit, and she wasn't happy. She was clearly unhappy.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, she was like, okay, all right. That's kind of how I see the general attitude in the city right now.
Right. Obviously, there's a whole lot of stuff going on, not the least of which is the explosion in the St. Petersburg pipeline that happened today, last night, whatever. Oh, my God, it's gigantic.
The footage of that is crazy.
And
there's a lot going on. There's an awful lot going on, as is usual for
Right. Well, that's what I was. The usual part of it was what really stuck out to me, because I was saying to my girlfriend this morning, I was like, this is in Russia. This is happening with some serious regularity. Mm-hmm. Giant power stations, because I remember there was a chemical plant, I believe it was in Texas, that exploded maybe about 15 years ago. And it dusted the town with chemicals, and it was a big story about how it was poorly maintained and big investigation, changed a lot of the regulations of what's okay and what's not. And then I think there was a transformer that went out and near the TYT studios in Culver City, and they blamed it on Democrats who run LA, which is hilarious. But these are relatively small on the scale of as bad as the Texas explosion was, and as certainly annoying as the power going out because of a transformer blows is. It's not even on the scale of the fact that, you imagine a nuclear-size explosion, because this was huge. I mean, it looks like a Moab explosion going off in your town, and then about 6 weeks later, another one doing it. Or Moscow. There's been 4 of them.
And you got to understand the importance of Petersburg. So the structure of Russia, and I don't want to bang on about this too much because, this is pretty common knowledge, but Russia is not, despite its enormous size, there's really only a small part of it, percentage-wise, that is populated. And only a small percentage of that is populated by any city of any particular importance. And really, when it boils right down to it, it's Moscow and St. Petersburg, with the Ekaterinburg on the outlier and Sochi and a couple of other cities around but it's really St. Petersburg and Moscow. So to have this massive explosion, I'm trying to think if there would be I guess it would be New York and LA. If there was an explosion in Orange County, or in
Yes.
the valley. Let's not even Orange County, right? Like in the valley.
Yes.
You know, if suddenly like as you say, Culver City, but not just a little like an explosion, like a proper mushroom cloud explosion. A lot of people would be like, "What is going on? Something is very wrong here."
Right.
It's not only the fact that it blew up. It's not only the fact that it was so massive. It's the fact that it happened right on the border of the second city of Russia. It really is. It's not only a blast that affected their refining capabilities. It's not their energy sector. It's also the mental effect that's going to have on the people of Russia. This stuff is not supposed to happen.
Right.
And they're getting bashed time and it's repeatedly getting bashed with this idea the war is not going well.
Right. But also on their own soil by their own problems. Because again, this doesn't look like a soft strike. It could be, but it looks more like just, they have abandoned sections of infrastructure that need people, running them because they need those men on the front line. So they just scooped guys up and they're like, I'm the temperature checker at 5 points along this section of pipeline. That's my day job. And you're going to pull me from that and send me to try and take, a chunk of the Dnipro. Like, get out of here. So, and by the way, yesterday, day before yesterday, Russia issued its largest single day debt, like cash infusion, money printer go burr moment for the ruble in its history. And did it specifically to increase military spending, which, in a real world would devalue your currency immeasurably because it's doubling what you've done. It is effectively a version of cutting your interest rate while they've been raising interest rates, but then printing the money anyways, which is really nuts. And that they're going to, the spending for 2023 on the military is going to be double what it was last year in 2021 leading up to this. So anybody who thinks it's time to talk to Russia and that they're going to be a fair partner in this is insane, because if they spent that much money leading into a war they thought they were going to win, and they're like, we would like to talk for a little while and just simmer things down and go back to where we were so that we can spend double what we're spending on the military for the next shot. Yeah, I mean, it's madness. It is.
Yeah, it's madness. It's also madness for us to think, because the Ukrainians know the Russians better than anybody on the planet.
Right.
We do not study we study dozens of different potential adversaries across the globe. The Ukrainians know that their primary they have one, right, and they were tied at the hip to them for centuries. So they know their enemy very well. I saw this thing yesterday about Poroshenko, apparently. So the previous president of Ukraine, during the 2014 period, 2014, when the invasion happened into the Donbass and Crimea was seized, they started, despite the Minsk agreement, the Ukrainians started building up their military. And there was a guy who was a Putin apologist, and he came out with this argument that, well, see, the Ukrainians were always like belligerent. They were expecting war. They were building up their military industrial complex. And my response was, well, yeah, of course, because they knew that the Russians were not going to stop with the Donbass. This was that they always knew from 2014 on until today. They always knew that the Russians were never going to just let them go. This is the most important colony that the Russian Empire ever had, the Soviet Empire ever had, and they are not
it's their
just
window.
going to say, oh, well, okay. And think how hard it was. Think how hard it was for the British Empire to let go of Ireland, or for the French Empire to let go of, say, Algeria. And those were relatively, and I know I could get in trouble for this, but those were comparatively benevolent empires when it came to the way they kind of controlled. Somebody from India or Ireland, or Algeria or Morocco might take umbrage with that. Sure. But compared to what the Russians do, there's no comparison.
Right. Sure.
I mean, they slaughter entire populations. There's a story a guy told me about when he was learning a Ukrainian musical instrument about because it gave identity to Ukrainians that was separate from the Russians. They gathered them all together in Kharkiv in the 1930s and said, we're going to have a concert of Ukrainian traditional music. They gathered them all together in a music hall and slaughtered them. Now the Irish and then the Brits and the French did a whole bunch of nasty stuff during their period of empire, but I can't ever recall anything like that happening. So the Ukrainians knew who the Russians were, and they knew that they would eventually be coming here. And so they have been preparing for it for years. And for us to now say, just make peace, we'll figure out the details of it later, and just, we'll make some sort of special agreement with Donbass. The Ukrainians are going, no, you don't understand. Yeah. If we do not decisively beat the Russians, they will come back. They will keep coming back unless we send them packing.
We have to take a break. We're a little bit over that part, but I want to discuss a little bit of that because it seems that the cries for make peace with Russia, the Skeksis of the interwebs that are calling for make peace, all those folks seem to raise their voices when Russia gets hit the worst. When Russia's on its heels, then it's time to just let's call it off. They're on their heels. They haven't left yet. They let them keep some of what they had, and that's enough. If they're on their heels, instead of letting it continue until they break, the Ukrainians have to break on their behalf. It's so striking. We'll be back right after this.
Yeah.
These I follow a couple of these Russian and Ukrainian Telegram channels. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, and this there was an article from Christina Vandenheuvel, who writes for The Nation and that kind of stuff.
Oh, I know her. I know her very well. She was married to I'm gapping on his name at the moment, but yeah, massive Putin apologist.
Kevin Bacon.
We all are. By the way, I'm 2 degrees of separation, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, neat.
2. Yeah. People can look it up on the site. It's not far. I hope to be 1.
No, I'm 3.
It's going to happen. Yeah, that's right. You are 3 degrees of separation, Philip and Johnny. Both of you are 3 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. Because of my show. Isn't that nice? Anyways, so I watched these sites to see, there's this video I saw of this Kadyrovite, the weird Chechnyan guys, and he's surrendered. He's bleeding. That's why I can't show it on screen. She was married to Stephen Cohen.
Stephen Cohen.
Yeah.
So I was just Googling it. Yeah, no, right. I know Stephen and Van der Hoeven pretty well.
Yeah.
Van der Hoeven. Oh, that's right, Hoeven, because Hui in Russian is a very bad word, and they always used to make fun of her about that.
Huh. Well,
I can't say it even remotely. Well, can I say it? This isn't going out on air, right?
Yeah.
No, Hui is
streaming.
Hui is
coming
dead.
Back in 10 seconds.
All right. Thank you. Yep.
That's Idina Hui.
Yeah.
Ruski Krabli, Idina Hui.
Right.
So Van der Hoeven, which is
I know I'm only on 1 day a week. I get it. I'm going to have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. And a guitar note, and then progressive and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. And a guitar note, and then progressive and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It is. It's totally going to be good. Phil Bittner is still with us, and we got carried away, so this next segment is kind of a short one, but we were talking during the break that and before that about how it seems like the you know what? We need, let's peace talks, immediately peace talks. We got to get peace talks. It really comes up anytime it's clear that the Ukrainians are making progress and the Russians are starting to get their butt kicked in a serious way. It happened when Kharkiv was taken back. And anytime when it happened right after the Russians were driven out of Kiev, or driven back from Kiev, and it's happening now that they took Kherson. They took everything east of or west of the Dnipro River and more. And now that that's happening, oh my God, Christina Vanden Heuvel, does this article like now is the time. If there's ever been a time, it's now. No, actually, if it looks
Milley,
like
General Milley,
right,
also indicated that.
Right. Well, also here's the thing: the military guys, I think, have a reason to overtly call for peace talks, and we'll talk now. We'll talk. Let's come to the table. It won't be on your terms because you're on the back foot. That would be Milley's reasoning. And yet on the in reality, we're still giving them the arms that they need, and we're still continuing to support them. And NATO just upped their what the European countries, not technically NATO countries that are just EU countries, whatever, are giving more stuff as well. And we also the U.S. did a $20 million grain for Ukraine payment this week as well to help the growth and shipment of grain out of there to protect, hunger in the third world that would directly be the cause of this. So anyways, catch us up too on the world according to Ittner that's going on, around there. Yeah.
Well, there's just to finish just briefly with the last couple of points about that, and then we will move on because you can bang on about this for a long time. But there's two things about it. One, there's a comparison that's being made by an awful lot of people about like how World War II came about because we did not march into Berlin at the end of World War I. So the Germans didn't feel the effect of actually really being defeated. So they're like, we weren't defeated, we were betrayed.
Right.
They never had the decisive defeat that the population needed to see so that they didn't come back and
try it again.
Have grievances and try it again. And then there's the other thing about it, which is I think a lot of people who are very, and there are lots of people who are very, they're very knowledgeable about Russia. And I think they recognize as many of us do, and myself included, is that I don't think this is the crisis. I don't think this war is the crisis. The war is already done. The war, in many ways, is already done. It's just a matter of time. Russia's going to lose this war.
Yeah.
But the real question is, and the folks who watch and learn about Russia deeply, is that what happens after? This is going to be a fundamental crisis for Russia. This will shake them to their very core about who they are, about what their identity is. They are no longer going to see themselves through the prism of empire because they will not have empire anymore. This war is not the crisis. This war is bad. This war is difficult and it's horrific. But the real crisis is going to come when a federation of countries that has been bound together under the dominance of Moscow, many of whom have nuclear weapons on their territory, now have to reassess who they are and who their sense of identity is. And the possible fragmentation of the Russian Federation is going to be a really risky, dangerous period.
Agreed.
So this is bad. But when Russia loses this war, which it inevitably will do, the crisis will be, what does that mean for the Russian Federation?
Right.
And I think a lot of people recognize that, and they're scared of it. So they're like, just let's figure out a peace that everybody can agree to, and we'll go back to some sort of like marginal status quo. Well, I argue that that's not possible. My perspective is this is a long time coming. The Russian Empire expanded way too quickly. It is way too unwieldy. It's much larger than it can be managed.
Right.
And moving forward in the 21st century, they're going to have to reassess who they are, not only in their sense of identity, but also just structurally. It doesn't function. The country only functions because all the power is under the thumb of Moscow. So we're this is just getting started, and as much as people would love, As much as people would love to let's go back to something else, it's just not going to happen. We're forging a new future. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Even if they got a piece of Ukraine, it would be the only healthy part of their entire country, and they still got all the elements of economic collapse that they've been building forever underneath all this stuff that's not going anywhere. And their relationship with China, which they were like, we have a friendship without limits. Remember that earlier this spring? Well, it's got a lot of limits. And apparently, it wasn't just the Turkish ambassador or the Turkish prime minister that castigated Putin. So did she on one of their phone calls. So recently, this is not going well for them, because what it is the Ukraine war, their invasion of Ukraine, makes it harder for China to justify Taiwan, because it brings people's attention to sovereign countries that aren't technically run on top of, run on the, because, and it's a little different because Ukraine used to be part of the USSR. Taiwan has never been under the CCP. The Chinese Communist Party of China only runs mainland China. It eventually took over and reclaimed Hong Kong, but it still technically doesn't run that place. It's just been muddier because that's who the agreement was with. But Taiwan was always a separate country, just ethnically under the envelope of China in terms of how the rest of the world saw it. Back when China was impoverished and burnt down, essentially. And Russia is going back to that kind of time where Ukraine is its Taiwan, in that it's wholly independent now. It doesn't need it at all. And it is more advanced and will continue to advance beyond the level that the country is capable of, while Russia and China collapse in on each other. That's a gnarly aspect. Kazakhstan and all these other countries that want to be a little more like the Saudis, they want to be rich oil and gas crowds, But
it also is going to call into question their sense of identity, because Russians' sense of identity is very much tied into the sense of Russia as an empire. And so for the first time in centuries, that's going to disappear. And just like the Brits had to reassess who they are on the global stage in the post-imperial period, the Russians are going to have to do the same thing. And I am concerned that they will not handle it even remotely as well as the Brits or the French did.
Well, the interesting thing is, what are they going to...
This is just getting started.
Right. The interesting thing is, what are they going to do with it? What are they going to, it doesn't matter at a certain point. If you don't have the means and wherewithal to push back, all you got to do is grumble and hate. And they could still cause trouble. They could be a troll farm. They could cyber attack the world into a seizure if they wanted to, even if they don't end up building their military back. And that might be their fallback. That might be the only fallback, is that they become a rogue cyber state that is just hell-bent on destroying the SWIFT system and everything else, so that, hospitals in the West shut down. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Johnny Million is farming questions in our chat for Philip. We'll answer them on the other side.
Yes, please.
They're all very sexy.
Oh, look out.
Yay.
I think there's music playing. We'll just assume we're at break.
No, I was receiving a spam phone call just as we were going to break. So
see, some things never change. There's always some sense of normalcy. There's this. Have you seen the footage of the woman in Russia who laid down in the street and got run over by a car, Phil?
No.
It's all over Telegram and it's all over their things. The interesting thing is it's not like gross, because another car kind of rolls by and then another car just zips by in the lane that she's laying down in and hits her. She's dead. And she just vanishes. It's like a shitty magic trick. She's just gone. Once the other car rolls away, there's nothing on the pavement. She's just gone. And I've seen it on several different sites, along with like there's like one Telegram site that catalogs all the Russians committing suicide right now, which is off the charts. It is. Yeah, it's horrifying.
I know somebody whose brother committed suicide because of the war, because he was so ashamed of it. But I argue what's happening is going to be worse than what happened in the 90s. And I was in Moscow in the 90s.
Right.
And it's just going to be such a massive blow to their just identity of who they are. It's going to be a crisis. Really bad one too.
Yeah, it's like the stock market crash and that old story of like robber barons who jumped out of windows, and like after the stock market crashes.
Exactly.
But everybody.
Yeah.
Like just like that. One of their biggest rappers did that as well. Oh yeah. I think it's hilarious that Russia has rappers.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I know
they're awful.
Yeah, I know it's. Well, believe me, I've met and filmed segments with Chinese rappers, who are street, bro. It's just like
we're coming back.
Thank you. You know how like embarrassing Kid Rock is and kind of trying too hard and all that kind of stuff. Imagine there are hundreds of thousands of people like that in all these countries. God.
Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I thought there was going to be like a new one every break. I was so excited.
You want more, Hal? We'll give you more.
Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. Hoo-yah!
So, currently, and we'll go over some of this too, Philip, as we go forward. But currently, the only target Russia seems to have inside Ukraine, oddly enough, it's not Crimea, it's not the Dnipro, it's not pushing back into Kharkiv, it's not even getting the Belarusians to come into Kiev again. It's Bakhmut, right dead center.
Yeah.
And this is the meat grinder of the whole thing. The claimed and unclaimed and reclaimed territory, map of that looks like cuts of meat on a cow. It's these little circles that get taken and it's horrifying because in 3 of the battles that I've been researching and looking at, the Russians lost 800 guys in one. The Ukrainians lost nobody in these. I would like to remind you. They don't. I mean, they're using artillery to protect. 600 in another battle, and at least 200 crossing a river. That's
I was at a function last night, a kind of a cocktail party kind of thing with a bunch of different. These are conflict zones always get a little bit weird. So they're like NGOs, and then there were guys from diplomatic
all those pictures of World War II where they get around a piano and start singing patriotic songs and drinking, whatever the local beverage.
It's Casablanca with this mishmash of guys that all have their fingers in one pie or another.
Right.
Anyhow, I struck up a conversation with a guy who just came back from Bakhmut, and he said the thing that really struck him about Bakhmut was the fact that the Russians they came running across an open field. They were just running at the Ukrainian positions. And the Ukrainians didn't have to do anything. All they had to do was just fire artillery. They were running across open fields, running at Ukrainian positions. And the Ukrainians just went, well, okay, if that's how you want to die, then we'll kill you. Right. And they did. I mean, it's the guy who I spoke to, who was an Australian security officer, and he said he'd never seen anything like it in his life. He was like the futility of running in open fields when artillery was raining down on them was just, he couldn't believe it. And so they sent it is in a lot of ways. It's like suicide by cop. It's just this willingness to just throw yourself into the meat grinder. And again, somebody else at the event was involved with the conversation. He said, they're just cannon fodder. And I said, well, actually, in Russian, the saying is cannon meat, which I think kind of tells you the difference between, there's cannon fodder, and then the Russian translation is literally cannon meat. Their only military doctrine is, we have a lot of artillery, we have a lot of soldiers. And the fact that they don't even have air supremacy right now, that there are still Ukrainian helicopters and bomber jets flying right now is astounding to me. The first thing that any NATO nation does when they enter into a conflict is try to control the skies, because
Yeah.
it's such an overwhelming asset.
And
that if you can
remember
control
the big
skies,
conversation.
you
Yeah,
control
big
everything
conversation
else.
at the beginning was NATO needs to help us control the skies. NATO, and there was a big thing about we're not going to set our planes in there because we're not going to put them up against Russians and trigger World War III and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, the irony is we didn't have to. Russia turned out to be so terrible at this that they gave away air dominance. I mean, there's no other way to really describe it. It was their battle to lose. Let's answer some of the questions that Johnny has for you too.
But you're very right. You're very right. Bakhmut is turning out to be an essential battle, and we'll see how it shakes down. But I think the Ukrainians are, because they just keep throwing it at Bakhmut and they keep getting repulsed. So anyhow, questions, Johnny?
So what is the mood in Kiev and Ukraine? This is from Eric. What's the mood in Kiev and Ukraine now that train service has been reopened between Kiev and Kherson?
The fact that train service is restored to Kherson is amazing. It is such a morale boost. Pardon me. It is. I don't know if you saw the video of it, of the first train from Kiev to Kherson coming into the Kherson station, and people were openly weeping. Yeah, they had gathered together at a train station, like those old 1930s kind of newsreels that you saw. Yeah, and it was, people weeping because it was this reestablishment of their connection to the rest of Ukraine. It's been a massive morale boost. The fact that electricity has been restored to the Kherson railway station in order to facilitate those trains coming back, that's also a major boost. But morale is high, but with the understanding that we are still facing a very tough period ahead of us. So it's a mixed bag, but generally morale is high.
On a related note, by the way, to trains, the Chinese high-speed rail into Shanghai, a huge section of train and the transformers that power the whole thing, which are not like the little ones on the end of your block, but are gigantic, exploded. And nobody was killed because nobody was in the train, allegedly, according to the Chinese government, which the rest of the train was packed. But for some reason, the two cars that blew up had no one in them, which I totally believe. And the transformer itself was sending out so much electricity because it ran the whole maglev run of this train that it looked like something out of a Godzilla movie. It was shocking the sky. So anyways, good train news, bad train news.
One last quick thing about the train system, the railway system within Ukraine. I've seen a lot of people saying, again, those who are rooting for a Russian victory here saying, aha, you see, the railway system is reliant on electricity, and if the electrical grid goes down, they won't be able to move their trains around, and they won't be able to move, people or munitions. Well, yes and no, that's true, but the Ukrainians are well aware of that, and they are bringing out of mothball, and this is really kind of interesting, like everything, coal-powered railway trains, even steam trains are being rehabilitated. It's not like the Ukrainians aren't anticipating this. So even if the electrical grid does go down and it does affect the electrical railway system, they are preparing for that, and there are contingency plans. It will not be perfect. It will not be a 1-to-1 ratio replacement, but it's not like they aren't preparing for that. So, the electrical system going down is not going to stop rail in this country.
Excellent. Okay, next question, real quick.
From Nacho Tube, do they have tacos in Ukraine?
Oh,
yeah, they do. They're not nearly as good, but yeah, they do. Sure, they do.
All right.
It's like Midwestern sushi.
Yeah,
it's like sushi in a Midwestern restaurant. It's you take what you can get. I
got a buddy of mine who runs a Mexican restaurant in San Francisco. I keep trying to tell him, when the war is over, come on over here and we'll branch out.
Yeah.
All right, so from Jennifer Kashim in the chat, what can ordinary American mortals do to help? Is there a particular charity aimed at keeping Babusi warm?
There's tons of stuff out there. Try and find a reputable one. Go to a Ukrainian-based charity group. It's not hard to find, but do try and make sure that it's connected to a Ukrainian organization on the ground here. International groups are reputable, Red Cross and all the rest of it, but try and find somebody that is on the ground here doing something. And no one's, it's terrible that I don't have this just on a cheat sheet. I should, but it's not hard to find. Just do it. You'll do it very, very quickly. You'll find something. There are aid groups. Go to the International Legion.
I have a recurring thing that shows up in my chat that I put in there through the like Restream and Tweet, like all these different streaming services I use are all trying to help. So they give you the option to try and tweet stuff out. And there's a link that will pop up. It comes up very regularly in my chat, especially on on Twitch, but you should also see it on YouTube, that gives you a link that you can go to that helps you parse out how you can help. So yeah, that regularly goes through my live stream chat here and during the weekly show. So in case you want to know, yeah. Okay, let's grab one. Let's grab one more. We got a minute
before our break.
Yeah. Yep.
So Ed's 3D Tech. This is kind of a biggie. Can you ask Philip if the loss of soldiers is higher than we think?
On the Ukrainian side, on both sides. I would say that it is not. I would say that it's even worse on the Russian side than we know, but it's bad on the Russian side. I would say the Ukrainians are definitely understating their losses for sure. It's not as publicly known, but I would suspect highly that the Ukrainians have lost a lot more soldiers than they're letting on. However, having said that, the Ukrainians have a deeper sense of resilience to, as horrible as it is to take casualties. They know this is an existential threat, so they are willing is the wrong word. They can sustain a percentage larger than the Russians can, but the Russians are taking dozens and dozens of thousands, hundreds of over 100,000, no doubt in my mind, have been killed or wounded in this war on the Russian side. On the Ukrainian side, I would bet you it's in the high tens, 60 to 80. Maybe, I don't know. That's a guess off the top of my head, because again, the Ukrainians are being so restrictive in that. But again, but they know that this is it. This is everything for them. So they can, as horrible as it is, sustain more casualties than the Russians can. Except the Russians care less.
Right. Let's take a break, and then we'll come back after this, and then we'll have a few more minutes with Philip Bittner. You're listening to the House Sparks Radio program.
And I will get you an Worldwide.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, we'll have one on the other side. We'll be back right after this. Mm-hmm.
Trying to look up Erwin Redliner's group here, who actually a friend of mine works for.
Yeah, let me see. Hold on one second. There's the AP is putting out this thing that the in the G20 there was a statement against Russia for its invasion of Ukraine by the G20, and China and India didn't sign on to it, but they did not stand in the way of the release of the statement by the G20, meaning they are part of the statement and they didn't, but they don't have to sign on to it to agree to it, because it's all the countries, unless somebody objects. So they agree to it. It's there's a huge shift. Pardon me.
Yep. Well, that's inevitable, because I mean, everybody knows this is it. Here we go. Found it.
Yep. It's because it's embarrassing. Quite frankly, this is more Hollywood than anything else. This just sounds like those countries just going, the stink of failure is on you. You're only as good as your last picture, and I can't do anything with you, kid. You know what I mean? It's not like they give a shit about the Ukrainians as people. It's just Russia's losing so bad.
Happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling, let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning, I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning, I hope that you like cereal.
Yay!
Yay! So,
Yay.
so we've only got a little time for a few more questions because we.
All right. Well, real quickly,
Yep.
there is
This is a good part for the happy ending.
There's a good group that I am. I've been in contact with the head of it. Erwin Redliner is a doctor who run a pediatric trauma center. He has started the Ukraine Children's Action Project. Again, the Ukraine Children's Action Project, and it emphasizes helping children who have been victims of this war one way or the other. I can personally account that is a reputable group that is doing very good work. I know the director of operations out in Lviv. She was one of my first fixers, and I actually recommended her to Erwin, Dr. Redliner. I can attest to that if your money is sent there, then it will go to a good cause. So the Ukraine Children's Action Project.
That's under the EI Foundation. Let's see. Yeah. Ukraine Children's Action Project is a new initiative designed to provide urgent mental health and education support to Ukrainian children who are either refugees in Poland or internally displaced in their own
mental health
country.
is going to be essential. Mental health, the scars are not just physical. It's a good organization. I recommend it highly.
Great.
So anyhow,
cool.
that's so just following up so we got another 10 minutes or so here left, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Go
just
for
about.
it.
So this might be too broad. This is from Templeton Zerat. But can we ask Phil about how the tactics will change with the onslaught of winter? What should we expect?
I think things will slow, but they will not stop. I think people who think that there will be a massive pause in operations are incorrect. I think that things are going to continue because the Ukrainians don't want to give the Russians a pause. They just want to keep the heat on the Russians constantly. They can't wait for the conscripts that are going to be brought up, even though the conscripts are worthless in so many ways and are just cannon fodder or cannon meat. It's still 300,000 men in the theater of operations. It's going to change things. So they're going to keep the heat on, and they're not going to stop. They're going to keep pressing their advantage. They're going to keep driving towards Crimea. Once Russia breaks its back on Bakhmut, they're going to try and press into maybe split that section of supply and the shortest period, the shortest space between Russia and Ukraine is kind of that area. So they might try and split things in two. But I don't think it's going to significantly. I don't think it's going to slow down to the kind of just status quo, kind of slow burn that a lot of people think it's going to be. I think the Ukrainians are going to keep I think the Ukrainians are going to keep pushing hard, and I think that we are going to. And I've given a lot of thought to this in the last couple of weeks. I think we're going to have to start thinking very soon about. So there have been stages of what the Ukrainians have asked for from NATO and allied supporters from the West. First, they asked for anti-tank weapons, and we supplied it in the terms of javelins and in-laws and those kind of weapon systems. Then they asked for anti-aircraft and anti-ballistic missile systems, and we gave that to them. They've asked for artillery when it was our artillery duel. There have been different phases where they've asked for different things. I can foresee, and I will defer to military experts who are far smarter about this stuff than me, but I have been around the block once or twice and seen my fair share of conflict. I think the next thing the Ukrainians are going to desperately be in need for is close air support, because their military is going to be pressing the advantage against the armor and the infantry of the Russians, and so they will need air support, because you can't do it with artillery. That's too dangerous. You got to have close air support. So, they have tried to mothball the A-10s for years. Why don't we give them a bunch of A-10s? Or, give them, if we don't want to give them a NATO system like an A-10, give them the Hind helicopter that used to give John Rambo so much trouble in those movies.
That's right.
But, close air support, I think, will be the next thing that the Ukrainians are going to need from us, and I think we should already start anticipating that.
Well, I know that there are helicopters coming from both Poland.
Yes,
and
there are.
I want to say Germany, but it might be French ones. No, it's Poland. Poland and Germany. Yeah, Poland and Germany are both sending helicopter stuff. Poland sending the actual helicopters, and Germany sending techs and other people to get them flying and get them trained up on the guys that are
that's another thing they're going to need. That's another thing that they're going to need, and already people are talking a lot about this, is that we need to get to a situation where the Ukrainians are able to repair what gets damaged in battle without having to send it all the way back. There's a large country.
Yes.
Sending stuff back that needs repair all the way back to Poland or even Western Ukraine is not feasible. We need to set the Ukrainians up with repair stations and with supplies that can aid to the repair of damaged equipment and weapon systems much closer to the front line. So that's another thing that I think we can anticipate the Ukrainians asking for, and we should already be. And I know that we are. There goes my. Oh no, it's coming back. Yeah. My light went out there. Anyhow, that's the next thing. We should anticipate it.
Right.
We got a couple minutes more. We can do maybe one or two more questions. Hal?
Yeah, here's a shorty from Dr. 13. What is that poster behind you?
Oh, that's
my lovely. That's Saint Olga. That's that is Saint Olga, who is a fantastic story. Wonderful story. And if you want to. And if you want to see a wonderful rendition of it, look up Puppet History's take on it, which is both funny and accurate and gruesome. She's an amazing story. And the sign, it says, Vuspukayetya Bayraktari, unleash the Bayraktars. And you see all the Turkish military drones flying over. Over his head there. So.
Yeah.
We got time for another?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Connie Kelly wants to know if you have read The Accidental Superpower or The End of the World Just Beginning, which seemed to predict this war.
Oh, Zian's
I've heard about it. I didn't read it. Yeah,
I've read.
I heard about it. I haven't read it.
I've read both of them. It's not so much that he predicted the war so much as that he predicted the problems that Russia has and pointed out that there's really only two ways out. And the one that Russia is most likely to choose is the awful one, because they have a history of doing that. So it's one of those things like we're all marching towards a hole. You could try to jump over it, you could try to go around it, or you could push a bunch of people in and walk over them. Russia's habit is to handle the problem of the hole by pushing everybody in and walking on their backs, unfortunately. So it's not like the war was predicted, simply that you can look at this person and their solution matrix and know that that's all that's left. But it's a great book. The End of the World is Just Beginning. That's Science new book. Yeah. It's great on audio.
And there's a great author and one of the best correspondents on Russian affairs, Owen Matthews, has just come out with a book. He is the Times of London's correspondent, I believe, in Moscow for many years. I'm looking forward to reading that. Owen Matthews, I would look that up.
Yeah. What do you got, Johnny? Yeah.
All right.
We got one more.
This
then
is
we'll close it out.
Do you know if Ukrainian people have ever seen the original Red Dawn?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at the beginning of the war, they had Wolverines painted on a bunch of Russian APCs that they blew. That they blew up. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they tagged them after the fact.
Don
squeeze out one quick one.
How cold does it get in the winter? How long is the winter?
The winters last very long. They're going to probably go into February. They get bitterly cold. They already are bitterly cold. It's comparatively mild, but it's still really, really cold, and the snows just keep continuing. So this is going to be hard. Ukraine is going to have to really, toughen up. Well, not toughen up, but they're going to have to go through this. And it's going to be difficult. It's cold. It's really cold. I'm cold right now.
Yeah.
But
so is Johnny. So am I, and I'm in Vegas.
Similar to Chicago. It's similar to Chicago or the UP or Canada.
Yeah.
It gets bitterly cold.
Also, Tom Hebert on the way out the door wants to know if you have Hunter Biden's laptop, because we've been looking all over. And Philip, do you have it there? Is it around?
I'll ask Olga if she can find it for us.
Yes, thank you. I think she might have blown it up at some point just to cover the tracks behind her. Okay, we're running out of time. This is the last minute show. Yeah, that's right. Philip Bittner, thanks you so
everybody.
much. We'll see
if
you.
If I don't see you before then, happy Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
I'll see you on Wednesday, hopefully. But
yeah. We'll do a pickup show then. I will be traveling that day, but we'll manage to happen. Johnny Million, love you. Follow, for the time being, follow Philip Bittner.
Eliza Skinner for me tonight.
Oh, I will, if she wants to hear from me. We're debating, so I don't know if she'll want to even. Maybe she's in character. Anyways, I will do just that. Tonight, the unpresidential debate, links on my YouTube and on all sites. We'll see you later. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And Slava Ukraine.
Thank you, Chicago.
Also, Marjorie Taylor Greene's plan will go nowhere. I have to gather myself up and run right out the door, but I will say this: she's been saying, like, I'm gonna write this thing that we're going to go through every dime that was spent on Ukraine. But yeah, fine. After they win. But we're not going to do it just so you can make a phone call, so somebody else can make a phone call and go, oh, they bought a bunch of this stuff and it's in this part of the country. That's what that's for. That's what she's trying to do, and it's going to fail. It's ham-handed and stupid. It's not going to
And since we're off the air, she's a vile piece of shit for that photograph that she posted in the halls of Congress of a bunch of Ukrainian soldiers who had various battle wounds, and she said, "Oh, it's so sad to see them being used like this." Oh, go fuck yourself.
Well,
nobody's using them. They're there because they're trying to raise awareness.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to say
a woman who has never heard a shot fired in anger, and if she ever did, she would squeal and run.
Yeah,
these guys who like to puff themselves up, they don't have any idea what war is like, and it's disgusting that she would be that dismissive. So shame on her.
Ugh. Anyways, I got to race off. Bless you. Take care. Be safe. Save your power. Yes. Wednesday. Yes. But we will do it at.
Thank you, Johnny.
It'll be at a curious time. I'll let you know.
Okay, because let me know.
It's a travel day for the holidays. It might be just fine, but it might be. We might pre-tape Tuesday night or something.
We're going to try and do a Thanksgiving here. So there are enough American expats here that we're going to try and do a Thanksgiving, but not on Wednesday. So just let me know the specifics of it. Good talking to you both. Good to see you all. Anybody who's still watching the stream, God bless you. Keep supporting Ukraine.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
All right, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Hold on.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks, guys. They all bailed out or whatever, so I wanted to say thank you for watching. Don't forget to give a thumbs up on your way out the door. And I posted a Twitter poll on my Twitter about kicking Elon Musk off of Twitter, since he put up a poll about bringing Trump back. And my numbers currently are better than his for bringing Trump back to kick him off. And I would like to, if you feel like heading that way or you have an account, give it a nudge. It's got another 10 hours to keep going. I want to get those numbers really, really huge. And by the way, can I show you guys the train that he was talking about? This is the footage of the train coming in. These are all the people greeting the train from Kherson. It's really a beautiful thing. And there's they painted the sides of these. There's Dnipro and all this, these travel portraits for tourism and all that kind of stuff. They're still intact. They still look great. I don't know if they were refreshed before, specifically before this, but it's pretty amazing. And people are super excited and very happy. By the way, this plane that was landing in Peru clipped a fire truck, which, interestingly enough, caused a fire. And the back of it, yeah, here you go. This is that's it. Boom. Hits the engine. Oh, just why? Hasta bajola ay. Oh, just my. That's not good. And I think, let's see if I can find the, I think I can find the, before we go, the explosion. Oh, I know I have it here. Hold on one second. I just got to make sure that I can show you on the Telegram without something awful being shown at the same time. Here's a Russian plane being shot down. Hold on. Let me move this down here. Look at this guy. I have to be careful on this Telegram site because some of the stuff is gnarly. Yeah, that's a Russian plane going down. Shot down over there. Let's see. I gotta because some of the maybe it's in the Baza one. Hold on. So much gnarly stuff. I'll scroll back up and find it. Yeah, here's some of it. This guy right here. That's the explosion happening. Like that's the fire afterwards. People just filming it. And then, yeah, here you go. Like that's a gas pipeline exploding. With it creating a fire tornado after it happens because there's so much fuel in it. Yeesh. And then there's another one. I think this is a longer version. This shows you where it is. This is in St. Petersburg. That's where it is. Imagine a place that far from your house making that big a fire. Good Lord. Anyways, I wanted to show you that to you guys before I head out the door, and a lot of CO2. Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me move you guys over and say hi. Thank you guys for being with me today. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming back. We will see you next week. Have a great holiday. If I don't see some of you, I know some people take a break, and that's not a bad thing. I'm doing Thanksgiving travel Wednesday through Sunday. I will probably more than likely have a Friday show. Like I'll do Monday, Tuesday, but I'll have a Friday show just to catch up, and then Saturday radio, and then we fly, and then I fly again on Sunday. So we should, I'll miss a couple of shows, but I'll let you guys know ahead of time. But I got to go get in the car and drive to LA, man. Whoop. Okay, so it's going to be crazy. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy yourselves. There's a lot to be thankful for. And remember what I said about Marjorie Taylor Greene's Ukraine bullshit and her, it's just blather. It's nonsense. It's like her impeach Joe Biden bullshit. It's not going anywhere. It is not going anywhere. Enjoy, though. Just laugh through it. Just breathe deep into it. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Yeah, she is blather. It's true. Okay, bye, everybody. Bye.